You are listening to the Why Smart Women podcast, the podcast that helps smart women work out why we repeatedly make the wrong decisions and how to make better ones. From relationships, career choices, finances, to faux fur jackets and kale smoothies. Every moment of every day, we're making decisions. Let's make them good ones. I'm your host, Annie McCubbin, and as a woman of a certain age, I've made my own share of really bad decisions. Not my husband. I don't mean him, though. I did go through some shockers to find him. And I wish this podcast had been around to save me from myself. This podcast will give you insights into the working of your own brain, which will blow your mind. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I'm recording, and you are listening on this day. Always was, always will be, Aboriginal land. Well, hello, smart women. If any of you had been listening to the audiobook of Why Smart Women Make Bad Decisions and How Critical Thinking Can Protect Them, which we have played over about the last 10 weeks, you might like to tune in to the next 15 weeks and listen to the audio recording of my second book, which is Why Smart Women Buy the Lies and How Critical Thinking Reveals the Truth. So this is a continuation of the hapless character Kat, how she identifies the flaws in her thinking and finally makes better decisions. If you find yourself tuning in and you are perhaps in episode 3 or episode 4, by all means, go back to episode 1 and follow the narrative because it has a very strong narrative arc. So, relax, kick back, get yourself a cup of tea or a glass of wine and listen to the audio version of Why Smart Women Buy the Lies and How Critical Thinking Reveals the Truth. See you soon. Bye. Chapter 7, Mr. Yee's Garden. You are walking en masse to a nearby allotment that locals have transformed into a community garden. Will pushes Mr. Kovačic's wheelchair ahead of you. Mrs. Kovačic and Charlotte, Michael, Alec, Mrs. Hume and Willow are bringing up the rear. Charlotte, who looks like someone who never lets carbs pass her lips, is wearing jeans and a half-tucked white shirt. You've previously tried the half-tucked look but have only succeeded in looking half-dressed. Charlotte has insisted on bringing champagne. You are delighted by the bond that seems to be emerging between Mr. Kovačic and Will. Even though you are yet to hear a word from Will, he seems to have taken to the role of Mr. Kovačic's lieutenant.
They get on so well,
you say.
Yes, perfect for each other,
says Mrs. Kovačic.
Will never talk, which means Mr. Kovačic can bang on. Works for me too. Less chitter-chatter when he get home.
It's a big adjustment for Will,
says Charlotte.
but he's doing rather well, I think.
How are you, Charlotte?
Just marvellous. I love it here.
Alec puts his hands on Charlotte's shoulders. He's deeply tanned, wearing a white polo shirt. The two of them look like they have just stepped off their private Mediterranean yacht. He smiles.
Her name's Charlotte, not Charlotte.
He says to Mrs. Kovačic.
A shallot is a vegetable.
Mrs. Kovačic looks mortified.
Oh, I'm sorry,
she says.
It's okay, Mrs. Kovačic. I thought Charlotte was a cake,
says Michael. You think you register irritation on Alec's face. You are quietly mortified. What is wrong with Michael? He sounds gauche, unsophisticated. You can forgive Mrs. Kovačic. English is, after all, her second language, but why would Michael say he thought Charlotte was a cake? You wish he wasn't wearing the T-shirt that says, I might look like I'm listening to you, but actually I'm thinking about buying more chickens. When he first wore it, you'd said, you don't own chickens, and not only is that T-shirt intensely daggy, but the statement is stupidly long. He'd frowned and looked down at the T-shirt. It was a present from my sister, he'd said, by way of defence. Willow runs to the fence.
This is totally sick,
she says. You follow with Mrs. Kovačic and Mrs. Hume.
We had a garden at school. We grew Japanese turnips. I hate them. Why does this sign say Mr. Yee's garden?
Mr. Yee was very kind man,
says Mrs. Kovačic.
After stroke, Mr. Yee push Mr. Kovačic down here every day. He show him how to grow bok choy and snoppies. Then Mr. Kovacic get better. Also better for me. Mr. Kovacic was huge sorry sausage to live with.
Where is Mr. Yi?
Says Willow.
We lost him to COVID.
You say.
And, no doubt, the curse. It was second strike.
Oh, that's so sad. Did he have a wife?
Says Charlotte.
Yes, she is my friend. Mrs. Yi comes to garden still, even though she lives in God's waiting room.
It's not God's waiting room.
You say.
It's assisted living.
Same thing.
Maybe don't mention it to Alec. He's sensitive about COVID.
Says Charlotte. Willow turns to where Gail and Amelia, the head honcho chickens, are scratching ruminatively in the dirt.
I love the chickens.
She says.
Amelia ready for the pot.
Oh, why would you say such a thing?
Says Mrs. Hume.
Amelia's laying well. When I get old, would you put me in a pot?
You're already past it.
What's over there?
Says Willow.
That's the old bowling club room.
Says Mrs. Hume.
Willow, you are standing on what used to be green number 1, where I won the 1997 club championship.
Willow looks to the fence east of the plot where the vacant building sits.
This place is brill. If you had that bit of land too, you could have more plants and horses and goats and alpacas and llamas. I can ride horses. I learned at school. We could have a riding school. I could teach kids with autism on the weekend. It's really good for them.
Right.
Says Mrs. Hume.
That sounds very altruistic, but don't get your hopes up. There's talk the whole area's about to change.
What do you mean?
There's a proposal before council to redevelop the site. Premium townhouses.
Awful.
Says Michael, appearing beside you with some lemons he's plucked from the tree.
More stock for the Airbnb market.
That's disgusting.
Says Willow.
No one cares about the autistic kids.
Arm of curse now reach to take away our garden.
Says Mrs. Kovacic.
Nothing safe.
I think it's more the arm of developers.
You say.
Michael,
Says Mrs. Hume.
I saw your car parked out the front of the flats. Be careful you don't get booked. It's been over an hour.
How do you do it, Mrs. Hume?
You say.
Your mind is like a steel trap.
Willow, let's see how close we can get to the clubhouse.
Says Mrs. Hume.
Cool.
Says Willow, and they head towards the fence.
Your aunt is amazing.
You say to Charlotte.
I'm giving her supplements.
She says.
Should keep her well and dementia-free for as long as possible. Who knows, maybe she'll get a letter from the Queen. King.
You say.
Oh, yes, of course. King.
She says.
It's a shame the Queen couldn't get her hands on some of your supplements. She could have sent herself a card.
You say. Charlotte's very smooth forehead moves imperceptibly. A slight furrow appears between her eyebrows. You worry she's a staunch monarchist and you've upset her. She is British, after all.
Not that I don't think the Queen is terrific. Or was.
You say. She smiles at you.
It's all right, Kat. Signs are the monarchy may have had its day.
You breathe a sigh of relief.
Can I have some of these supplements? I'm beginning to look as old as Queen.
You look amazing, Mrs. Kovacic, but I will get you some very special face cream. It takes 10 years off. 10 years? I'd like that.
You say.
Ha! You look 12. Alec tells me there was a near miss with my air wrap. I'm so sorry.
Will is levering Mr. Kovacic's wheelchair down the path between the broccoli and the spinach. Alec calls to him.
Will, I don't think you've properly apologised to Kat.
Will keeps walking.
Honestly, it's fine.
She had bigger fish to fry with the garbage truck nearly killing her.
Says Mrs. Kovacic. Alec follows Will down the path, grabs Will's arm and drags him over to you.
Will would like to say sorry properly.
Says Alec.
Alec, darling, I think Kat's moved on.
Says Charlotte. Will looks at you, his expression indecipherable. He nods.
Thank you, Will.
You say.
It's totally fine. But thank you for such a nice apology.
Alec smiles broadly, releases Will's arm and ruffles his hair.
That's my boy.
No wonder the child doesn't speak. You know bullies. You lived with the hipster.
Hey, Will,
Calls Mr. Kovacic.
I need your big strength to pull this one up.
Can I help?
Says Michael, and he and Will troop over to Mr. Kovacic. Charlotte pours champagne into Mrs. Hume's crystal sherry glasses.
So, Kat, besides having incredible hair, what other talents do you have? Don't know about talents, but I have a job, a dog, a cat, and a boyfriend. Not in that order of importance.
Charlotte says. Charlotte watches Michael.
He seems lovely.
He is.
You say. You feel guilty about wishing he wasn't wearing the chicken shirt.
How did you meet?
She says.
We met when I was climbing over a balcony to escape my old boyfriend.
Oh, my God.
I was hanging off the edge of a balcony with a Great Dane breathing in my face. Michael saved my life.
Mickey is good boy,
Says Mrs. Kovacic.
How far were you off the ground?
Says Charlotte, quaffing her champagne.
First floor, I was saved by Michael and a conveniently placed wheelie bin.
What is it with you and wheelie bins?
Charlotte throws her head back and roars with laughter.
Yes, of the wheelie bins.
Says Mrs. Kovacic, which makes Charlotte laugh even harder. You don't know if it's the champagne or the winter dusk, but you suddenly feel intensely happy. You look around the allotment. Mrs. Hume and Willow, Mr. Kovacic, Will and Michael, Mrs. Kovacic, Charlotte and the handsome nephew. For a moment in time, everyone is smiling. You surprise yourself by clutching Charlotte's arm and leaning into her.
Welcome to the flats.
You say,
Right.
says Mrs. Hume,
Time to go home.
Who would like turnip soup?
says Mrs. Kovacic. Michael bravely raises his hand.
Love some.
Poised for positivity. You are sitting in a semicircle of colleagues from corporate affairs and communications and HR. Lisbeth, Sarah and both Ryans are chatting with Dasha and Chen, the new girl from payroll. Meredith and Timothy have been released from archives and are sitting drinking tea at the back of the room. You look over at Adele. She is scrolling through posts on what looks like a subreddit about snakes. Lydia sits at the end of the row looking like she's waiting for medical results. Barry the dog is sitting at the front of the room in a shopping trolley propped up on cushions, one paw hanging out, breathing heavily. He is accompanying Michelle, the trainer who is running this Poised for Positivity wellness session. Gabriel Randall has insisted that everyone attend Michelle's session as positivity seems to be in short supply.
Barry is joining us today
Says Michelle, scratching him under his chin.
because there's a lot of research that pets help to relax you. They lower blood pressure and increase happiness, though we don't need research to tell us that, do we, Barry?
Barry looks disinterested in whether he's helping lower anyone's blood pressure.
So please, over the course of the session, take advantage of Barry's presence and give him a blood pressure lowering pat. Dogs are also very good at helping you develop a positive mindset, aren't they, Barry?
Barry emits a low sigh. You hope she isn't going to address too many more comments to Barry. You find people who spend large portions of their conversational capacity talking to their dogs, dispiriting. Your discussions with Porridge are of a different calibre. Barry is some sort of ancient bulldog cross staffy mutt. His general demeanour doesn't really speak positive mindset, but he's clearly been around for so long that retrenching him would be cruel. Michelle more than makes up for Barry's lassitude.
We're all aware that Work Wellbeing Sure has a strategy to upgrade and modernise the business. The only way we'll get there is by building our customer-centric accountability-first culture. I've heard about it.
Says Chen, the new girl.
To build that culture, we're going to unleash your undiscovered superpower.
Adele looks at you and twists her mouth.
And that superpower is gratitude. So let's start in a positive frame of mind. In situations like the post-pandemic environment we find ourselves in, it's easy to focus only on the negative. But today's the day we're going to break that habit. Who's with me?
There are a couple of desultory murmurs.
Come on, we can do better than that.
I'd like to break that habit.
Says Chen. You don't think Chen has a negativity habit to break, but maybe it's her enthusiasm for these sorts of programs that has fueled her perky positivity.
In the pre-work, you've been asked to fill in your gratitude diaries.
Michelle lovingly holds up one of the said diaries, an exercise book decorated with grateful cartoon characters hyping up a pastel rainbow.
Let's open our diaries and take the next few minutes to pause and reflect on our entries, adding anything that we're grateful for since our last entry.
You open up your book. You have 3 entries.
1.
Woman at David Jones' makeup counter said I had an even skin tone. 2, Michael cleaned up porridge vomit. 3, not pregnant.
You look over at newish Chen. She has just asked Michelle for a second book as she's already filled in the entire first book. You see she has small, neat writing. You wonder what she has to be so grateful for. You'd heard she has 2 small children and her husband lost his job months ago. Later at morning tea, Adele corners you near the coffee pod machine.
I'll be grateful when this program's over so we can get back to work.
She says.
Me too.
You say.
Also, doesn't Chen drive you mad?
You shrug and insert a coffee pod into the machine. Adele tears open an individually wrapped mini quiche.
I knew what she'd be like on day one when she brought her own gloves and bleach to clean the kitchen.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
She was here till 7:30 last night, apparently, so who's looking after her kids? I won't even leave Emma alone for too long. She frets.
How do you know?
She won't acknowledge me. Gives me the cold shoulder. Snakes are very loyal.
Snakes don't have shoulders.
It's a metaphor, Kat.
Michelle rings a bicycle bell and you reluctantly reconvene.
Thank you, everyone. On the board, I've written some positive qualities. In your triads, discuss the qualities you believe you bring to your job.
Oh, this is going to be good, you think to yourself. Your position in the semicircle puts you in a triad with Adele and Lydia. Michelle notices this combination has resulted in an awkward silence. She steps forward to facilitate.
Why don't you start, Kat?
Says Michelle.
Okay, I'm a mediator.
Adele makes a low grunt. Lydia looks at you and smiles tightly.
That's great.
Says Michelle, beaming at you.
That's a really good specific positive quality.
I think the other side of being the mediator is a tendency to sit on the fence.
Says Lydia.
To avoid saying what you think. Maybe that's just me. I'd be interested in Adele's perspective.
Before Adele can offer her perspective, Michelle cuts in.
To be a mediator is a wonderful quality. It helps you see the positives on both sides of the argument.
What if there are no positives?
Says Adele.
Oh, there are always positives. If you look for them, even in challenging life events, you can find the positives. When you can find the positive, it enhances your resilience and compassion.
Says Michelle.
What about the pandemic? What was positive about that?
Says Adele. Oh, God, you think to yourself. This will provoke Michelle to talk about quality time at home and cooking sourdough from your own starter. But no, she throws the question back to the room.
Who can think of something positive to come out of the pandemic?
All you can think about is Mr. and Mrs. Yi. This was supposed to be their time in the sun. The pandemic robbed them of that. There is a long silence. Eventually Chen says,
Well, I've enjoyed more quality time with my kids. I've been able to take an active role in their education.
You look at Chen. You secretly agree with Adele. You find Chen irritatingly perfect. She's uber efficient and never wears rayon, and you suspect she styles the back of her hair for Zoom meetings. She has photographs of 2 perfect children on her desk. They're both at selective schools.
Great, Chen.
Says Michelle.
Anything else?
There is an even longer silence.
We fostered a cat.
Says Ryan Kraft.
Right, great.
People died. People got sick. People lost their jobs. In what way is that positive?
Well, those people aren't here, so I can't ask them.
The fact they're not here would have to be a negative thing for them, don't you think?
I'm not saying bad things don't happen. What I'm saying is you can view them through a positive lens. It's our response to the situation that causes our unhappiness, not the situation itself. At the end of the day, we can't control what's outside ourselves, but we can control our attitude.
Adele rolls her eyes.
Also, how do we know that being retrenched didn't open up other possibilities for those people? Wellness is multifaceted, and one important pillar is a resilience mindset. If you develop a positive attitude to this pandemic, you'll be prepared for the next.
Michelle looks pleased that she's successfully pivoted the conversation.
It's a once-in-a-100-year event. I'll be 132 by the time the next one happens.
Says Adele. The muscles around Michelle's mouth tighten.
Well, there'll be other events that living through the pandemic will prepare you for.
I'm finding lots of positives.
Says Chen.
I'm finding the gratitude diary really helps.
Adele rolls her eyes and mouths to you.
Oh, gee, she's a pain.
That's fantastic, Chen.
Says Michelle. Michelle then launches into a well-practiced monologue about her own positivity journey. She was a bookkeeper when the company she was working for enrolled her in a positive thinking workshop.
It was the best afternoon of my life.
She tells the group.
It set me on my wellness journey. Actually, it was the best afternoon besides my wedding. Though when I think about it, they were neck and neck.
She winks.
Gee,
Whispers Adele.
must have been a crap wedding.
After that one workshop, Michelle had packed up her books and opened her corporate training company, Poised for Positivity. Her laptop cover and phone feature matching unicorn branding.
In times like this, when we're all challenged, it's good to be able to develop a mindfulness practice.
Michelle says.
To find a way to be present in the moment and not project into the future or ruminate into the past. Being negative is easy. Who would like to wake up in the morning feeling refreshed and ready to meet the day, regardless of what's going on in your life? It is possible.
Michelle had hit her persuasion sweet spot. We were all now picturing ourselves climbing enthusiastically out of bed, flicking on the kettle and calmly but purposefully striding out to meet the day. Adele looks at me and crosses her eyes. Michelle produces a bag of raisins, offering one to each of us.
Now, in the spirit of remaining in the present, I'd like you all to shut your eyes and hold this raisin in your mouth. If your attention wanes, just gently bring it back to the raisin. Avoid swallowing the raisin. Just hold the raisin. Be present with the raisin.
You begin quite well. You instruct yourself not to swallow the raisin, but to roll it around in your mouth, exploring the texture of it with your tongue. However, as Michelle had forewarned, your attention begins to wane. You bring your mind back to the raisin, but not swallowing the raisin has turned into a mammoth task. You have to swallow the raisin. It's beginning to feel enormous in your mouth. If you don't swallow it, you may die. You sneak one eye open to see who else is struggling with this simple task when a noise like a drowning person taking in their last desperate breath rents the room. You open your other eye. Chen is doubled over, holding her ankles like she's in a brace position on an aeroplane.
Chen?
You say, moving to kneel in front of her.
What's wrong?
You pry her hands from her ankles. She looks at you.
I don't want to be in the present. I don't like it.
Okay.
They've cut my hours
Right. That's very tough.
by 2/3. My position may not last the month.
Right.
I swallowed the raisin. That's okay.
Calls Michelle.
They're organic.
I know, I did too. It's very difficult not to.
Chen looks back over her shoulder and puts her hand to her neck.
He's gone.
She says very quietly.
Gone? Who?
Ray.
Gone? Like gone?
Yes, he left us 4 months ago.
Oh, Chen. No.
Ray's left you? Oh, my God.
Says Adele. Adele has hearing like a bat. Adele stands and turns to Michelle.
Spin this one, Michelle. Chen's husband left her during a pandemic. Work's cutting her hours and she's got 2 small children. Are you behind on the mortgage, Chen?
Yes.
And she's behind on the mortgage.
I don't know if that's helping, Adele.
You say. Adele moves behind Chen and puts her arms around her neck.
You and the kids can stay with me, Chen. If they're frightened of snakes, I'll put Emma in the cupboard. She's very understanding for a python.
Michelle tries to wrest control back.
I'm not saying that what's going on for Chen isn't terrible. It sounds unimaginably hard, but nothing stays the same and everything is an opportunity for growth. We just don't know it at the time. And isn't it a good idea to have stress management techniques when you're under stress?
Yes.
You say. Adele snorts.
Maybe they could cut the wellness programs and use those funds to give workers more hours. More money would be better for Chen than rolling a raisin around in her mouth.
What can we do to help you, Chen?
You say.
I would like to pat Barry.
Michelle extricates Barry from his trolley and puts him in Chen's lap. He growls at the disturbance. You can't help thinking that a Labrador puppy would better represent a positive mindset.
We were going to get a dog.
Says Chen, scratching Barry behind the ears.
With Ray gone.
You look at Michelle. You wonder if this counts as a bad day for Poised for Positivity. You wonder if she will take Barry home and say to her husband that people are difficult and demanding and resistant, that maybe she should have stuck with the bookkeeping. Maybe her husband will pour her a glass of Merlot and reassure her she's on the right path. Or maybe he'll say, "I told you so," and go back to watching border security. Who knows what goes on in people's lives? The room is silent. A semicircle has formed around Chen. She's staring into the middle distance. We all look at her. We have collectively lost our nerve. Our positivity has faltered because calamity has entered the room. She is a palpable presence. She is sitting in the corner, filing her nails, wondering who to point her finger at next. Michelle packs up her bag and puts Barry back in his trolley.
I know today was difficult, but a positive mindset steers us through life. I'm so sorry to hear about your situation, Chen. I hope everything turns out for you. We all deserve to have a happy, well life,
she says. She walks to the door, smiles tentatively, then pushes Barry's trolley through and closes the door behind her. She is a nice and decent woman. You hope husband number one is waiting for her at home. What actually is wellness? Nobody is quite sure what wellness actually is. It certainly sounds appealing. Wouldn't we all like to be well? Adele has an intensely negative reaction to the Positivity Workshop. Is there any validity to her standpoint? These programs, led by soft voice practitioners, encouraging us to be in the moment, are proliferating like mushrooms across corporate training rooms and, thanks to Zoom, people's lounge rooms. But what are leaders actually trying to achieve by offering these programs? Like so much in the overcrowded canon of corporate speak, wellness and her offspring mindfulness have crept into our communications, but we haven't examined what we're actually talking about. Ostensibly, we're talking about stress reduction, learning to manage our anxiety, sharpening our focus, improving our productivity, showing resilience in the face of challenge, living mindfully and focusing on the here and now. These are all valuable skills, but, as with everything, context is king, and oversimplifying is unwise. People and their anxiety, depression or stress are without a doubt complicated, especially in this post-pandemic environment. The problem with the wellness approach is that there's a strong implication that our response to the situation is causing our misery, not the situation itself, that the problem is our attitude. Really? Tell that to the woman with a toxic manager who feels unable to report him to HR, or to the senior executive who's juggling childcare while turning up to 7 a.m. meetings with her male team members for whom childcare is not an issue, or to the young lawyer working 75-hour weeks because that's the way it's always been done, or the call centre operator who goes home every night to a domestic violence battlefield. Should we be encouraging them to cope better, or should we be challenging the social underpinnings that create the stress in the first place? Managing stress is, of course, an extremely helpful skill to develop, but care should be taken that an undue amount of responsibility is not allocated to employees' internal responses to stress, rather than addressing the underlying workplace stressors. Gratitude practices are correlated with increased satisfaction and happiness, but there's no current evidence that they lower stress or anxiety. The philosophy itself has value, but in the hands of women who tend to be submissive, it can mean pasting a layer of gratitude over a deep well of trouble. Twisting yourself in knots to be grateful, instead of looking at your situation with clear-eyed pragmatism, is wildly counterproductive. I don't think wellness sessions are always deliberate attempts by employers to whitewash workplace stress, but it's worth talking about how we arrived at corporate wellness and mindfulness, what it is, and whether it actually works. The answer to that, by the way, is, well, we don't know. Wellness is so amorphous and broad, we don't actually know what it's made up of. There's a lot of anecdotal reporting that mindfulness is almost miraculous in its healing benefits, but the hard evidence is lacking. The hype has leapt ahead of the science. Things such as mindfulness and meditation have value, I'm sure, but it's the packaging, the over-promising and the monetizing that's begun to smell. Sure, if mindfulness wants to buy you a drink after a hard day at the office, go for it. However, if she offers to sit with you till closing and solve all your problems over a bottle of scotch, I'd move down the bar. In focusing so much on helping people manage their stress, we are missing the opportunity to investigate and perhaps ameliorate the issues, inequalities, ideologies, and flawed systems that cause the stress in the first place. Flawed systems are the main offenders. We're trying to optimize our businesses while we're weighed down under obsolete methodologies and questionable ideologies. If we're not going to address the conditions in which they operate, is it fair to help people to adjust and better cope with those stressful conditions? This is very salient for women. We're already bombarded with unhelpful messages about acceptance and gratitude. We don't need more motivational maxims. We need to ensure our workplaces are uncompromisingly safe, equal, and stimulating. If you find mindfulness or meditation works for you, that's great. Just be aware of the hyperbole from the intensely flexible practitioners sitting in their yoga pants in all their clear-skinned gorgeousness. Are they really going to make you well, or are they unwittingly encouraging compliance, urging you to shut down your natural resolve to right the wrongs you encounter? Chen and the raisin. Chen gets up Adele and Kat's noses. Adele has a negative gut response the first time she meets Chen, then confirmation bias kicks in to confirm what she already thinks. First impressions can be disastrously wrong, as we addressed in Chapter 3. It's an example of how heuristics, mental shortcuts, can get us in strife. Kat could recognise that Chen irritates her. She could realise that she's in the grip of a spurious, unconscious bias around impossibly neat and organised Asian women. Marie Kondo, anyone? But she doesn't. Adele's commentary aids and abets Kat's faulty perception. In the thrall of these cognitive errors, Kat misses the possibility that Chen is under pressure, and perhaps her perfectionism and relentless positivity is a coping mechanism. There is a flaw in our perception when it comes to evaluating negative behaviour in other people. It's called primary attribution error. Listen up. It goes like this. If you are late or angry, you forgive yourself. You understand your own circumstances and why you're late or angry intimately. You are late because your dog vomited in the car on the way to doggy daycare. You are angry because you've left 6 messages for your ex-husband and he refuses to pick up. If someone else is late or angry, you are not privy to the background or their circumstances and therefore put their behaviour down to a character failing. They are late because they are disorganised. They are angry because they can't control their emotions. Kat assumes Chen's behaviour is a character flaw instead of a situational response. The lesson is, if you have a strong emotional response, whether it's positive or negative, you need to put it on ice until you can analyse the situation with some accuracy. By the way, primary attribution error is an absolute corker in your intimate relationships. Your behaviour is understandable. Look at the pressure you're under. Your partner's behaviour, however, is a character flaw. Very disappointing. Lie detection. Well. The word wellness is now everywhere. Ignore it. It's on the tissue box I'm currently looking at. Really? My tissue is going to make me well? The community digs it. If there's one in your area, join a community garden. They're wonderful. Or even better, start one yourself. End of Chapter 7. Thanks for tuning into Why Smart Women with me, Annie McCubbin. I hope today's episode has ignited your curiosity and left you feeling inspired by my anti-motivational style. Join me next time as we continue to unravel the fascinating layers of our brains and develop ways to sort out the fact from the fiction and the over 6,000 thoughts we have in the course of every day. Remember, intelligence isn't enough. You can be as smart as paint, But it's not just about what you know, it's about how you think. And in all this talk of whether or not you can trust your gut, if you ever feel unsafe, whether it's in the street, at work, in a car park, in a bar, or in your own home, please respect that gut feeling. Staying safe needs to be our primary objective. We can build better lives, but we have to stay safe to do that. And don't forget to subscribe, rate and review the podcast and share it with your fellow smart women and allies. Together, we're hopefully reshaping the narrative around women and making better decisions. So until next time, stay sharp, stay savvy, and keep your critical thinking hat shiny. This is Annie McCubbin signing off from Why Smart Women. See you later. This episode was produced by Harrison Hess. It was executive produced and written by me, Annie McCubbin.